everybody, it's Mark J. Ryan here, and it's January 1st, 2018. Made another year, 2017 complete, and getting ready to start a brand new year, 2018. Hope everybody had a safe and a fun New Year's Eve last night, and I'm sure you're all looking forward to 2018 and what new and exciting things it's going to bring into your life. And one of the things that I want to talk about today, the main thing I want to talk about is, what do I do? What exactly do I do? So I was on a walk the other day, my morning walk, and it's pretty cold, pretty chilly. And as I was walking around, one of my neighbors, Larry, I happened to come upon him, and we usually have a little talk, 15 minutes to a half an hour or so about different things. He's a really nice guy. He's an ex-California Highway Patrol officer. And as we were talking, something came up about doing my coaching business, and Larry said to me, something about coaching, and he goes, I don't understand. And we talked about what I have done before. And I get that as I'm looking at him, all of a sudden, like, okay, what I think coaching is and what he thinks coaching is are two completely different things. And then I said, no, I do mental type coaching, Larry. He goes, I thought you were a coach, like a soccer coach, like a baseball coach. And he goes, I just couldn't understand, how is he making any money or doing any business coaching in the middle of wintertime, and that you have to go down to Arizona where it's warm, because I'm going down a lot to train and to assist with John Overdurf down in Scottsdale, Arizona. And he thought me going down there all the time had to do with the kind of coaching that needed to be in warmer weather. And so I thought that was kind of funny, and I had to explain to him a little bit about what I do. But even the idea of coaching, okay, you're a coach, what does that mean? What does that, before, years ago, I used to label myself as an NLP master practitioner, trainer, neurolinguistic psychology, or a hypnotherapist. I was a trainer in hypnosis, train other people, train professionals to use hypnosis. But I've moved past that. I still use all that stuff. It's still inclusive, but not the way that most people think about it is. And so kind of a lot of people, because of some of the issues that were happening years ago with psychiatrists, medical professionals, and psychotherapists, they didn't like people doing therapy or putting therapy around what they were doing, because they were certified therapists, spent a lot of time in school, had gotten accredited with that. And so what a lot of people did is move under the purview of coaching and the name coaching. But there's so many different types of coaches and coaching that I really don't like lumped into that. I've talked to John for the last few years and just said, there's so many people that are coaches and claim to be coaches, and what they do is so different than what we do. And how do we make that distinction for people? So that's what I want to try to do here a little bit. Hopefully get into your mind about what I do and how I do it and how it might be beneficial to you. And that if you've got a certain way of thinking about what coaching is, that maybe this will clear it up. You might be right. You might be right on about what coaching is. But I want to get a little bit more specific about how I do this, because there is a difference between a consultant and a coach and a therapist. And I could tell you the work that I do, when you're doing coaching, you're supposed to format the way you do things in a certain way. And it's kind of like football coaching in a way that you help other people get there. But with the mental coaching, and what most coaches do is they use a lot of your resources, what you have as a resource, and I mean emotional states or things that you already know how to do, and help you apply it. Or they'll ask you a bunch of different questions, kind of like in a Socratic method, where people ask questions to get you to answer it, and then you to get the awareness and start doing the movement. And then a consultant would be somebody more so that would give you information. So like if I work with people, and I work with a lot of chiropractors, different professionals, I work with doctors, I work with other trainers all over the world. I'm using Skype to coach these people all over the world. And one of the things as a consultant that I'll do is sometimes is just give them people get caught up in basic things like of not knowing what to do in their business. I remember working with a doctor up in Canada one time, and he was really stuck on an MD doctor. He was really stuck on something with a woman, and it was just practical advice. And I could keep asking him questions till he figured it out for himself, or I can just make some practical suggestions. Say, what if you tried this? And I'm really good at that. I'm really good at coming up with ideas of saying, business-wise, as a consultant type thing, or just in their life. If somebody, has an issue with a partner or somebody at work or a family member, sometimes it's just practical. Say, what if you asked them this way? Or what if you said this? Or how would it be then? And then how would you feel? So I'm using a combination of things is what I'm saying. And the therapist, sometimes we get in some really deep stuff with people, stuff that comes up, that opens up that they haven't thought about before or hadn't thought about in decades. And there it is. It's up there. Now what do I do with it? What do they do with it? And sometimes I'll use a lot of NLP techniques or conversational hypnosis, a lot of the new stuff that's coming up with brain-based coaching, and then some of the different things that I do with Dr. John Burton and his work. And how does this apply to you? What kinds of things do people call me up for coaching for? I mean, I recently had a gentleman that was from another country that moved in, called me. He was in the southern United States, called me up, and very depressed, didn't have much thought about living life anymore, or what was the reason or the purpose for life. He had a few years back where two of his young daughters, like 12 and 9 or something like that had passed away for different things. And then his father had passed away as well. So now that's not going to be the same as somebody that says, look, I need to lose 20 pounds, or I need to stop smoking, or I'm anxiety, or I'm biting my nails. They're different things. But I'm willing to work with anybody. If you've got an issue, if you've got something that's bothering you, let's go for it. The processes and the things that we use in the work that I do, and those around me, those other therapists and coaches that are around me that do a similar work, we're willing to use any tool we've got in the toolbox. I've been studying this stuff for over 30 years to be able to find out what it is that I can do to help improve you with whatever your issue is, and approach it from multiple different ways. And one of the things that to my opinion, to be a good therapist, to be a good coach, to be a good consultant, you better be doing the work yourself. You better be learning how this happens and what happens inside you and what kinds of things to expect. And when I'm working with you, what I'll do is a lot of times give you my experience or other people's experiences. Say, hey, here's what happens. Here's what can happen. If something pops out and there's certain, okay, been through this before. It's not a main premise of the work that I do is it's not good or bad. It's just the way it is. It's just the way it is. So something happens in your past or you did something. I'm not there to judge you about whether that's good or bad. What I want to do is to say, how do I help you process this to get into a state that's going to be, or a place and a behavior that is going to help you get to where you want to go. So somebody says, okay, I've got, like this gentleman, let's say, that had his father and his two daughters pass, and middle-aged man from another country here, feeling really lonely by himself. What do we start to do to find out how would he like it to be different? How would he like it to be different? And then what's stopping him? What's stopping him? And a lot of times that's not obvious. So when I'm working with people, I'll continue to have a conversation. And as I'm talking to you, I will hear different things about how you process information. Yes, I'll listen to the content and hear what the content is, the specifics of the information. So they'll say this man that had the daughters pass away, he might tell me a little bit about what happened to them and how that happened, but I'm more interested in what would he like to do with it. How is this stopping him from moving forward in his life? And a lot of times people get stuck in grief. People get stuck in depression. They might have anxiety over it. They've lost something. Trauma isn't just when you have, 3 family members die like that. That's pretty heavy duty trauma. But trauma can be some people breaking a fingernail. And it can really, really upset and change things that's going on within their system. Some people can take a shower and the water be extremely hot and can't stand it. And other people get on this, is there any way we can turn this up? So to each of us, our nervous systems react differently to the situation. So where we might laugh and say, well, this person broke their fingernail, it might remind them of something that happened 20 years ago and bring up all kinds of stuff that's inside that person, man or woman, doesn't have any idea what it is. But that's a starting point. So the great thing about problems and issues, your problems, your issues, they are all roads. They're starting points back to what you've lost. Why do I say back to what you've lost? Because when people have traumas, no matter what they are, how light they are, how light we may think they are, how heavy they are, again, everybody, like that hot shower, everybody adjusts to the water temperature differently. They have a comfortable point. Their nervous systems, our nervous systems are different, each of us. And so traditional coaching and therapy will a lot of times use hypnotherapy, especially they'll use a script. Okay, we're going to use this script. This is a general process of pattern of people that are depressed, and here's what we're going to do. And what I've been learning for 30 plus years is much different than that. We look at every single person. I'll look at you individually, and what are your tastes? Every part of the process is how does this temperature work for you? Is this good? Or is this too hot? Or is this too cold? And as we start to expose this information and it starts to come out, what happens is it's a really nice experience with the unconscious. The unconscious starts to begin that healing of stuff is possible. Healing of things is possible. And that things that it has blocked for years or stored for years. And let's say that you're wanting to do something and you keep finding a resistance. Why can't I do this? Well, your unconscious mind, which is there to protect you, the part that takes care of your blinking, that takes care of your fingernails growing, and if you get a cut on your hand, it heals it. You don't have to think about that. So there's a lot of unconscious, and that's most of who you are is your unconscious. There's a lot of unconscious things that are happening, and they're happening automatically and simultaneously, many different things occurring at one time, where consciously we think about things more in a linear fashion, one thing at a time. I mean, we can go back and forth really quickly. But what happens is the unconscious is looking for some kind of way or some idea on how to heal what your issues are. It just needs the tools. It needs the right way to process the information. And more importantly, the unconscious needs to know that it's safe before it opens this up. So when I'm talking to you and I'm dealing with whatever issue it is for you, whether it's severe or not severe, to you it may be totally severe and you may be embarrassed to say, well, for other people, this is probably nothing. Who cares? Who cares about other people? And if it's nothing for them, it's something to you and it's blocking you from going forward. And when you think about the Michael Jordans of the world and the successful people in the world that have done outstanding things, what they've learned to do is get past and use their energy instead of arguing with this part, instead of letting these parts convince you not to move in the direction that you want to. They've learned ways of overcoming that. And we've studied successful people to say, how did you overcome this? How did you get past this? And there's processes, there's ways to do this. And once you get a general idea of the process of how that works, then we can tailor it to you specifically to get it to work for your situation, your issue, your problem. And this really cool thing starts to happen. And that is that you start to get into the creative part of the brain with your imagination and your feelings and things, what we call inductive. And that just basically is a process, kind of like an upside down pyramid. It opens up. Things start to open up. You get more information to come in, more feelings, more emotions. You feel better because you're not expending a ton of energy blocking all kinds of and trying to get around and just or ignore or push away different problems that can't be solved. So just like with me defining what coaching is to you, a lot of times when I'm working with people, recently there was a chiropractor I worked with in the San Francisco Bay Area, and he had a misinterpretation of what a word was. And this guy is extremely smart, very well studied, just a wonderful human being, and he couldn't figure out where he was blocked. He goes, I should be doing this, and after listening to him for a little bit, I'm like, what do you think this means? Because he kept bringing up a certain word. I said, what do you think that word means? And so then we start exploring if that could mean something else. What would that then mean to him, and how would that change situations? And so I kept going after that, and a lot of times there's resistance in not understanding, or it's just something new. You know what? Before the alphabet, you didn't know what the alphabet was and how to put it together into a word, into a sentence, into a paragraph, into a book, chapter, into a book. You didn't understand. But slowly you built resources that let you be able to read books, understand books, maybe even write a book of your own. But without basic foundational skills there, and especially if it's let's say an old trauma that happened when you're a child under 7 years old, you didn't have a critical factor. You didn't have a way that you put your reality together that could block and say, yeah, wait a minute, I don't know what to do with this information. We have certain hardwired ways of thinking as children, and we're supposed to expand on that and grow as we get older. But if you had a trauma event back then, and it got stuck in a certain way of thinking that was incomplete, I'm sorry, you're not going to be able to go to those levels. You can bust through it, you can try your hardest to get through, and you can make a little progress, but then you go, here I am, back in the same spot again, doing the same thing. What's wrong? What's going on? That's the work that I do. To go there and say, let's find out what it is that's going on, where the block is, what's the reason for the block. Let's clear that block. When people clear that block, this is one of the main reasons I do this work, because I love that generative, creative mind myself. I love being in it as much as possible. And doing this work, I get to be in that working with people. And when they break free and all of a sudden the unconscious gets the block and it understands what it's been protecting against is actually what it's been looking for. I know it sounds counterintuitive, but I can tell you every one of your problems has the key and the answer and the secret to getting back what you've lost or taking it to the next level. Every problem. It's just there's a certain way of being able to shift it. So if I have a coin and I'm just looking at heads all the time and it's laying on the table and I say, wait, there's two more sides to that coin. And I know you're probably thinking, what do you mean two more sides? Well, there's the flip side, but then there's also the rim, the edge, isn't there? That's actually like a side. So if you think that's the coin, just the heads, and you need the understanding of what the tails part of the coin is, the back of the coin. You see the front, but you don't see the back of the coin. And you need that back of the coin to get an understanding, kind of like a combination code to a safe. And you only got the front side, and you don't have the other side to get the key to move on or to open up, you're stuck. And that's kind of what it's like. And I'm using different metaphors, analogies, similes in the process to hopefully to get you to understand personally that it's not your fault this stuff is going on. A lot of it within the first 7 years, you don't have the ability to say, I want to do this or I don't want to do this or I'm this or that. And that's why I don't use the judgment aspect of it. I don't judge you on whether this is good or bad or whether you should feel this way or, oh my gosh, that was horrible. No. It's strictly process. It's like, in a sense, it's a curious state of being and working. If I look at a car, and I used to work and build engines when I was younger on cars and fix a lot of things. I still fix a lot of things around the house today. I've fixed parts on my vehicle in the last few years too, and spent afternoons taking things apart, find out what's wrong and putting it back together. But I don't go in there and I find a certain pipe in my cooling system that's cracked and get mad and say that you're a bad pipe. This is horrible. I can't believe you've done this. No. And that's the way I look at processes. So if you've got a process and you're doing, chances are I've heard it and dealt with it 1,000 times. It's nothing new. But to you, it's personal and it's hidden. And a lot of times the unconscious hides it even deeper than you have the knowledge of, because of the idea of how we interpret the consequences if this comes out, if somebody knows about this, or the reason behind it, or what happened. People say, I don't want to talk about it. And even deeper than the stuff they don't want to talk about, there's things that have happened that you might not even be aware of. Sometimes there is implicit memories, and that implicit memory means that there is no story to it. You just feel it. It's something from when you were a little kid maybe, or a baby, and you feel a certain way, but you have visual input and auditory input about things that happen. Parents arguing, dog barking, who knows? And it creates a kind of association that could attach to modern day problems. And so what I'm saying is, as we go in there, I go in there with you, and we just have basic general conversation. I'm not putting you into a trance and saying, okay, now on the count of 2, you're going to tell me what this is. No, you're all conscious in this. I want you to be conscious as we go through this process so you have an understanding. I don't want to just give you a fish, take you out, put you in trance, have you do something, because then that puts the responsibility on me. You don't have to have any responsibility in that. But if I can teach you what this is, how to notice it, how to shift it and change it, but also how to continue to generate this for yourself, then I'm teaching you to fish. I'm teaching you to fish. And it's not just one issue. I mean, I used to, years ago with NLP, one of the main things was that this is fast, quick. It could be a phobia. It could be a 20-minute cure. Boom, you're done. It's over. And I got stuck on that for the longest time. And for the last couple of years, it finally started changing. I said, I'm going to start working with people long term. And last year, I had a bunch of clients that I work with for many, many sessions, over 10 sessions. And the things that started happening after 10 sessions, once the unconscious mind started releasing some of this other stuff, it was kind of like, okay, it would bring stuff up. Can you deal with this? What about this? Now I feel safe enough with you that the tools that we've cleared so many different things out of the way, it would bubble up. I used to tell people it's kind of like almost like having a soft drink, a Coke or a Pepsi. I know some of you probably don't drink Coke or Pepsi, but the idea is when you see it and you pour it, there's a head that comes up when you're pouring it from all the bubbles, thousands or millions of little bubbles, and then finally they start to fizzle down and dissipate. And what if those bubbles didn't? What if you're dealing with those, and each one of those little bubbles in there had some kind of an argument or a doubt or a reason or some kind of a internal voice in your head that was saying, no, you can't do that. I'm afraid of that. You shouldn't do that. You shouldn't do this. Oh man, I could do that. I don't know if I want to do that. All that stuff that's in there that's clogging up. So you're using most of your daily energy dealing with and battling with all these different parts like those bubbles in there. And then what if we just kind of pour it out, see the bubbles? They might even foam up a little bit more. And what if we could go down and narrow down to like, okay, this bubble is holding together 1,000 bubbles. And we could figure out what is your reason for holding all these other bubbles and these other parts. And if we can pop that bubble, so to speak, if we can clear that issue up, we can transform that, and it clears a whole file of things. Could clear 1,000 different bubbles. And that's what I aim to do, is to go in there and say, okay, how are you processing information? An incomplete process of information. How can I help you process this information better and then become generative and creative, that the information goes in there and starts to clean up? So I know I'm talking vague, but if you've got an issue or something you're thinking about, I'm sure some of this is going to be making sense to you. And if not, feel free to write me. If you want to do a 15-minute free session to see who I am and talk to me and see if I can work with your issue, if that's something that you want to do and you can trust me and feel safe doing that, write me. Write me at mark@markjryan.com or contact@markjryan.com. But the sense is if I can go in there and work on something that can clear a file, and I'll use a computer analogy, if you had to go in there and you've got 1,000 different files that you need to clean. And you can go one at a time and right-click, delete, right-click, delete, right-click, delete. That would take a long time. It's inefficient. But if I say, okay, where's the file folder? And let's just process this all together, all the files one time together. And I right-click on the folder, click delete. Are you sure you want to delete? Yes. Okay, that's not there anymore. How are you feeling now? It's not something that you got to wait for. Usually people feel this right away. Oh my gosh, and they can feel it in their body. And at that particular point in time, that's not there throwing a bunch of different things for them to have to consider or process or argue against or feel that doubt or you should have and could have. And there's an opening. It's a clearing. It's like seeing a cloudy day, and all of a sudden the clouds start to clear, and there's a clear blue sky, and there's the sun shining through. You just sit there and take it in. But what can we do with that? So that's the key. Once you get to that state and that clears out, now what do you want to do? Because that's the creative energy right there. The negative energy, you're kind of out of your left brain, out of your concepts. Now you're kind of going into your body and your right brain. And to say, what can we do to encourage this feeling to continue to generate throughout your day and your life? That's what this stuff is all about. Is to take that and now say, what are you going to do with it? A lot of people say, okay, good, it's clear, it's gone. Yep, okay, you're done with the session, that's it. What do you do now? Now, I'm not going to leave you sitting there. Say, what are we going to do with this? What do you want to do with it? Because a lot of times when you start in the beginning of a session, when I ask somebody, what would you like to do? How would you like to do it? It's because they've got the problem, they come up with an answer. But once the elephant, so to speak, is out of the room, and there's a clearing, and you're in your right brain, your generative brain, your imaginative, creative brain, and parts of your body, and you're feeling wonderful, if I ask you the question then, you're going to have a different answer. So that's kind of a loop that people get stuck in. Well, this is what I want to happen. If I can get rid of this problem, da-da-da-da. But if the problem is gone and I ask the same question again, it's going to be something totally different. So to get you out of the loop, I ask you certain types of questions. I ask you to consider different facets of things and look at it a certain way based on how you're processing the information, not what the information itself is. If you're processing a certain way, and I say, well, what if you considered it this way? By listening to how you process the information, I could tell you the incomplete part of your information. And if I ask you a question about the incomplete part of the information, and you have to consider it from there, now that creative opening, that opening in the sky to see the blue sky and the sun shining through, can now generate something without the obstruction of all those 1,000 bubbles in there, blocking it up and clogging it up. You got free sky, and say, what do you want to do now with this generative ability and this openness that you have and this creative ability as a human being, as a spiritual being, whatever you feel you are? What do you want to do with it now? How do you want to channel that? How do you want to funnel that? And then we bring it into how you can do that in the future, give you specific steps on how to do that. And then there's something called reconsolidation. Once you open a person up like that, once you open your mind, your beliefs, and you clear that stuff, and there's a different way of looking at things now and feeling things in your body. And I'm telling you, you'll feel it. There's no doubt. I don't remember a session where somebody didn't feel it, didn't get it, and didn't get the aha or the wow. And there was a release of energy. It's an incredible experience to go through as a coach. When I've done it myself with other people, but to be able to guide somebody through that and talk to them, and they're aware and they're conscious and they're awake, and then watch them open up and wake up even more, and then know the path is clear. It's like being blindfolded, and all of a sudden somebody takes a blindfold off. And there's a bunch of these things inside of you. There's a bunch of different things. And anybody, Michael Jordan, I was just listening to something this morning, a guy that trained Michael Jordan for 15 years. And he was training him with learning new things right up until the end. But what happens is this really cool thing happens. Once you get it, and once you get the generation of creativity in there, focused in a certain way towards the direction of what you want, what your purpose is, what your passion is. Once that happens, you start to recognize what's in your way more. And then You go, can we improve this? Or let's say can we get rid of this and can we do so? Yeah, sure. Call me up. Let's do a coaching session or a group of sessions. Or it can be, I'm doing this, but I have a sense that I could do it better. How are my beliefs getting in the way? How are my thoughts getting in the way? And how can I improve them to make it more efficient? That's one of the things when you study really successful people, whether it's athletes or executives or spiritual teachers, whoever it is, once you figure out how they think and what their basis is, it's kind of like computer software. We can start to put the process in. You use your own content, your own information about your life, but if you start to process that information in the same way a really highly successful person processes information, watch out. It gets really exciting because then you can turbocharge the whole process. So it's a combination of finding out what's successful for you, how to make it successful, how to make it work for you in your way, in the way your unconscious wants it, at the perfect temperature of the shower or the water in the bath. Not too hot, not too cold, perfect for you. Then we could start to say, okay, would you like to turbocharge this? Would you like to improve it? Would you like to learn how to do it like this person does it? And it gets real exciting. And this is one of the things that I continue to do. When I do the coaching, I'm helping other people. That helps pay for me going and learning more and doing this myself. Every month I'm doing 6 hours with John Overdurf. I do personal sessions with other people where I am the person getting coached. I am the client talking to a therapist, and I don't go to just anybody. I want to go to the best in the world at what I do, and that's what I do because I want to learn from them. I want to learn how they do this with me so I can add that to my toolbox to better help you. So considering everything I said, you might want to go back and listen to it again. There's a lot there. But think about the sense of what if you didn't have to push through to try to get things done? A lot of people say, all right, it's New Year's, and we all know the deal. All the health clubs are full now. They're packed. They'll be packed for a couple weeks, and then by the end of the month, they start going back to canyons again. And so most of the health clubs make all their money from the idea. But the sense is that you're pushing it. What if you didn't have to push it? What if it was clear sailing? You didn't have to push a bunch of bushes out of the way to walk the path. You didn't have to clear rocks. You didn't have to trip over things. What if it just cleared up and you had a clear path and it was easy at whatever angle? It could be downhill almost. It could be a slight angle, could be a steep, and you were able to just cruise down there into your future, cruise out forward into your future in a lot easier way, enjoying the process. That's what I want for you. I get it for myself. I help thousands of other people in my lifetime with this. And it's getting more and more exciting because we're really honing in on the processes that are involved that can really wake people up and make them feel peak how they should feel and say, wow, this is how I want to feel all the time. It's that mountaintop experience where you just open up and go, oh, this is great. How do I feel that all the time? That's my goal for you, is let's clear this issues up. In whatever area of your life it is, I don't care what it is. If it's physical, you want to work on something physical, obviously I'm not a doctor, I'm not going to be able to help you in that sense. But if you want to get better at exercising, or you want to talk about maybe how you change your diet, and we can go in and analyze what your thinking is. Why do you fall off track? What gets in the way? I'm telling you, the unconscious is a powerful thing in both directions. It can stop you from it, and no matter how hard you try, you can go on a diet and feel good for a couple weeks, and all of a sudden, next thing you know, you're eating a burger or a piece of pizza or milkshake, ice cream with a chocolate. You go, how did this happen? What is this part that is able to come in here? It's only doing it because it feels a need for safety, and your safety is involved, believe it or not. But as angry and as upset as you might get about that, whatever the issue is, could be in relationships. You keep attracting the same type of relationships or same type of person. You're like, what? It's a pattern. It's how information is processed. How are you absorbing, assimilating, and accommodating your information in a way? Is it working for you or is it working against you? And if it's working against you, let's get it working for you in this new year. Make the difference this year. Make the change. in your life. Start living it. See what's possible in your body. It's not right. It's not wrong. It's just the way it is. It's just the way information is being processed through you. Let's shift how that information goes through your mind, through your heart, through your body, through your belly, and how you feel about it. So you line up in a kind of a coherence. So your body, your mind, your thoughts, your feelings, everything is lined up to give you the best year of your life, 2018 and on. Let's do it. I can work with you with one session. If you want to check me out just to see if there's something you feel comfortable with me, email me, mark@markjryan.com, or go onto my website, markjryan.com, and go to the contact page and write me about it, and let's schedule a 15-minute appointment or set up an appointment right now. And the comprehensive session, which is basically the first session, I spent a lot of time gathering information so that in the session when I do the work, I'm able to run through it. Further sessions, then I would recommend you do the quick sessions. We don't have to go through that whole full information gathering segment, because I've learned a lot of your patterns already, and we've started making progress and get success after the first one. So the second, third, fourth, fifth, whatever, it's like a snowball effect. So then once things get moving and the momentum's going and you're believing in it and you're feeling the process, then it's much easier to add different parts of your life and say, now I want to work on my relationship or my career. Specifically, this thing has been bothering me since I've been a kid, and I find myself getting upset when people make this certain noise or have this certain look on their face or say this to me, or I'm always worried that I could get fired from this job, or the boss is going to say something what other people think. Those are all just processes. And whatever they are that's negative and makes you feel bad, trust me, that is the path, the beginning of the path. The sign says, healing this way. And we enter through that door. And what you find at the end of it, you're going to be blown away. Because just as much as it's been bothering you, more so when you find what's at the end of the path, it's going to be so much more there to support you and to realize, wow, this whole time, all this thing has been doing is showing me where we need to start. And once we start there, it's an obstacle in your life. And we look at those obstacles and we start to say, hey, let's use our creative mind in the process of learning how to get around this obstacle. It's not that you haven't tried. It's just you didn't know the proper way that the unconscious wants to process that information to get you through it, to get you past it, to get you back to what you've lost, to bring it back, to complete you, to make you whole again. Let's do this for 2018. This is Mark J. Ryan. Thanks so much for listening. I look forward to talking to you and doing a session, whether you want to do an introductory, you want to do a full comprehensive session, or some quick sessions. Maybe you want to do a whole day. I do whole day sessions if you want to do breakthrough, where we go in and deal with values and beliefs. I don't know what it is, but whatever. If you want me come into your business, we can do that as well. Whatever it is, give me a ring, give me a call or an email, and let me know what's going on with you, and let me show you how I can help you get to be the you that you want to be and make 2018 a great year. Take care. Have a great new year. Hope to talk to you soon. This is Mark J. Ryan.